to it. It's round 2 of the Formula 1 season in 2025. We've made the journey from Melbourne to Shanghai. Population around about 24 million people, and there's an awful lot of them crammed into this circuit. 3.38 miles long it is. 19 sprint laps to come in tomorrow's race. And 16 corners, 7 to the left and 9 to the right. And that track lap record from Sebastian Vettel in 2018 could be under threat on a newly resurfaced circuit. We've seen the times increase lap after lap after lap so far today. We head into sprint qualifying then. It's the same format as we have for Grand Prix qualifying, but it's a little shorter. 12 minutes for the first part, 10 minutes for the second part, 8 minutes for the third part, and we lose the slowest 5 in the first and second part. So Martin Brundle alongside me. You've been trackside today, watching the cars in magnificent conditions, it has to be said, for Shanghai. Totally different to last year when we came here, and some very impressive performances already.
Absolutely, and this new track surface is beautiful, really smooth, and you can see immediately the driver's got a lot of confidence. These ground effect cars carry it.
Speed into the corners, and they're hustling out there, and everything looks pretty good, but still you can tell the difference between those drivers that are really comfortable in their cars, that really trust their cars in a 150-mile-an-hour corner, and those that have to hesitate a little bit on the throttle, but conditions are almost perfect.
What intrigues me is that we see the McLaren look excellent on the track and producing the fastest times. But the word coming from within McLaren, and Lando Norris even himself, is it's still quite a difficult beast to drive. It's not the easiest thing on the planet. It's definitely got pace.
Yeah, sometimes a really good car can be a little bit edgy, but it can even they vary quite a lot on a crosswind. You've got a lot of real estate behind you, including the engine cover, and some cars are just, their aerodynamics are less affected by a crosswind than others, basically, and I think that's what he's feeling from time to time. Or when the car's loaded in a certain way, it might turn in beautifully to a slow corner and be great for traction on the outside, but doesn't say it's glued to the track in the high-speed ones.
Fernando Alonso, he in the Grand Prix here last year, set the fastest lap of the race and put his Aston Martin car, into the top 8 in free practice today, which was led by Lando Norris, who's the only driver in the last 21 Grand Prix to lead the first practice session and then go on to win the Grand Prix. So whether that's an omen once more, we will wait and see for Sunday's race. But this is all about setting the grid for the Saturday sprint. And we are ticking down now with 5 seconds to go until that green light. As you can see, there's a big queue forming of the cars waiting to get out onto the track. Light is now green, and we can make our way out for the start. There's Lewis Hamilton waiting in the garage in his Ferrari for what is his second qualifying at his new team.
Yeah, you saw the car, the Ferrari jumped when he put it into gear. There's no rubber joints or anything that gives on these cars, and literally that was clunky with the first. Sort of jumped a little bit at the back of the car.
Ted Kravitz, a very good afternoon to you. Hello, Crossy. Yes, morning in Europe, afternoon here in Shanghai. Still pretty hot down here in the pit lane. Sun still out, so great conditions for sprint qualifying. I hope that cooling on the Mercedes is efficient, Crossy, because Kimi Antonelli, the young Italian, has been down the end of the pit lane for a good 3 minutes. I didn't hear him turn the engine off, so he's very keen to get out there. They're all just taking their time to build the gap as they get away. So as you can see, medium tyres, yellow tyres for these first 2 sessions, soft tyre for the end. And really the only question is, who's going to be on pole and why is it going to be a McLaren?
Well, Oscar Piastri was there, nip and tuck with Lando Norris in practice, but he just dipped the wheel into the gravel on his flying lap and couldn't get that time. There is Kimi Antonelli, very impressive, very confident young man who's got 2 more Grand Prix to try and become the youngest ever Grand Prix winner in Formula 1 and the first Italian driver to race in this sport since Antonio Giovinazzi back in 2021. Interestingly close together, the two Mercedes going down the back straight, ready to start the lap. Presumably, George Russell will back away a little bit at some point to give himself some clear air into turn 1.
And if you want to ride on board with George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, or any of the other
18 drivers in this session. You, of course, can do so. There's your QR code. It'll get you straight into your Sky Sports app. You'll need the Sky Sports login to complete that login. And if you're watching on Sky Q, Sky Glass, or Sky Stream, or Now, then you can use the interactive button on your remote control.
So they're quite clearly, the Mercedes are bedding the tyres in. They're giving a warm-up lap, and they're not going for it straight away.
So a couple of laps then to prepare the tyres.
Yeah. I mean, that's steady. Both of them are quite steady.
It certainly looks that way, doesn't it? Jack Doohan out on the track, and if you remember back to the practice session, if you were up in the middle of the night, back home in the UK, the Republic of Ireland, you have seen his car pull over to the side of the track. It was a power unit related issue. I think that they've changed the power unit, yes they have. For Jack Doohan, no penalty for that, because you get a certain allowance for the whole of the season, and he hasn't gone through that yet.
Just to remind you, I know many of you know this, but they're obliged to run medium compound tyres in this session, in SQ1, same with SQ2, and that's why they're all on medium.
He needs a good qualifying here, Martin. After the first weekend in Australia, he needs to show a little bit more in this sprint qualifying session.
Lewis Hamilton had a difficult weekend, didn't he? And both Ferrari drivers did. So they looked, Lewis looked much more comfortable, I have to say, in the free practice this morning. You're right, McLaren do look like they could be fastest by a third of a second, and then it's quite close between Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari. Liam Lawson would spring to mind as somebody who needs a good run. Ollie Behrman, others who really just need to settle down and get some confidence and some belief in the car.
Gabriel Bortoletto, who flew Sunday night from Melbourne to Shanghai, has flown straight to the top with a 1:33.6 to be superseded by Yuki Tsunoda a few seconds later. Bortoletto's first time in China, he was telling me, let alone first time in Shanghai. And here's Max Verstappen to put a bit of distance between himself and Yuki Tsunoda, 9/10 of a second of a gap. Isaac Hadjar pops up in the second place. On a track like this, it's been newly resurfaced. Are we expecting the lap times to keep tumbling all the way through the session?
Yeah, it'll grip up as per normal when you get up, you take up the dust, and on the racing line you put down that racing rubber. But it just seems a pretty good surface to me in these conditions. In the rain, being a new surface, it might have a little bit of some of the oils come through, but in the dry, it looks like he's got grip straight away.
Just riding on board with Lewis Hamilton, he had a couple of moments in the practice session at this part of the track, stopping. And what do you do? Oh, about 120 metres before the apex. He stopped to go down for that second gear corner, and a couple of times he ran wide.
Yeah, it gave him a little twist under the initial braking, and it put him slightly wide on the apex, but he did a nice run around the outside and goes marginally faster than Max Verstappen.
So the man who has 6 Grand Prix poles here in Shanghai, and that is Tim Antonelli putting his Mercedes onto the gravel and losing a little bit of time. Third fastest, still plenty of time to make up for that, ahead of Isaac Hadjar and behind Verstappen, Hamilton, and now Charles Leclerc. He goes second fastest, with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri both on track currently. Piastri's just making his way around turn 13. We're on board with Lando Norris. He's picking up a distant tow from George Russell in the Mercedes, who moves over to one side to let his old mate pass. Liam Lawson goes 5th fastest. Half a second off the pace, only 4/10 off the pace of Max Verstappen. That'll be a very good confidence run for him.
Nasty exit out of the hairpin to Lando Norris, climbing the curve. Let's see if it's cost him or not. Goes over the line, only P3. And again, Norris lost a couple of tenths in that final sector.
And Piastri half a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton. I was about to say it was getting very close amongst the top 3, but it is the second, third and fourth and fifth. Certainly isn't for the top spot. Oscar Piastri, that is a statement to make for the man who has no poles in Grand Prix racing, but has 2 poles in sprint racing during his career in Formula 1. Hulkenberg looked really edgy, trying to get out of the hairpin. Fernando Alonso puts his Aston Martin second fastest. Hulkenberg goes 8th. And there's a second separating the top 10.
Well, it's okay close Formula 1 is at the moment, isn't it? Fernando Alonso, out of nowhere, goes P2.
I mean, where did that come from? Cracking that there, as I say, all on the medium tail. So Scrappy went for Norris down in fifth. Sensational time from Piastri, you have to say. Fastest at the moment.
Alonso was third on the grid for the sprint this time, not this time last year, first time we've been racing in Shanghai, Mark, but at the Chinese Grand Prix last year, third on the grid in very different conditions. It wasn't bright and sunny, and it did start to rain. And his first sector, the 24.4, was the best that we've seen so far on that lap. You know, horses for courses, maybe this is Fernando Alonso's weekend. He said yesterday he felt privileged that he's still racing in Formula One, and he took part in the inaugural Chinese Grand Prix back in 2004, and he's still racing and as competitive as ever in 2025 as George Russell goes sixth fastest. That's really a second, well, half a second off the pace for George Russell there.
And they were the pace setters, weren't they, in the first stages of the one and only practice session earlier today. So that's a bit of a surprise to see Russell 6th, Antonelli 8th, I must say, there. But Prix looking tidy. Alonso's gone and scattered the pack, up there in second at the moment. And Liam Lawson, 32.7, puts him 4 tenths behind Max Verstappen. That'll give him a bit of confidence his first run.
Russell was on the way to 40th. Understood. And I have to say, it did rather look like George Russell was in the way. Also, Stroll and Behrman have been noted for an incident, an impeding incident potentially. Could be Ollie Behrman in front of Lance Stroll, but we haven't seen that as yet. But that's George Russell incident. I'd be surprised if the stewards don't look at that.
Yeah, what's Fernando doing? He's gone down the pit road. Looks like he's trying to clean some pit boxes or something down there.
He's done that before.
Yes, he has, hasn't he?
Miami, he was looking out for the rubber and doing that the first time he went to Miami.
He doesn't know where he's going to qualify though, does he? But it definitely looked to me like he was trying to clean a bit of pit box.
Well, no lap is a wasted lap if you're Fernando Alonso. We're on board now with Carlos Sainz, who's one of 5 drivers that need to improve their situation. Esteban Ocon, Gabriel Bortolesso, Ollie Behrman, Carlos Sainz and Yuki Tsunoda all in the bottom 5.
Not pit box, of course, scouting the box.
That incident has been noted. George Russell for potentially impeding Yuki Tsunoda. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, so Carlos Sainz needs to find a few tenths here. You really need to be in the sort of mid to high 132s to be sure of making that. So Albon P12, Gasly P13, they could also do with finding a tenth or two. The slowest car seems to be the Haas, unfortunately. Esteban Ocon has just spent about 2 minutes sat in his pit box, just doing nothing really. It must be a matter of letting the tire pressures just go down across it. Ocon has now been released back onto the circuit. Ollie Behrman currently the faster of the two on a 1:33.
Talking of lap times, keep an eye out for this. 1:31.09. Sebastian Vettel in 2018, the all-time best lap here. Already on the medium tyre, Oscar Piastri put in a 1:31.7. So could that lap record be in danger as Carlos Sainz sets off then on his final run, Martin, in his sprint qualifying 1?
Yeah, super wide turn into turn 1 with Carlos, which opens up too nicely and the car looks stable enough. Long left-hander there. Takes you to a right kink down to a heavy braking zone. Slightly downhill. Turn the car, pick up the throttle now and see if you can just test the traction. Now with a really fast section. Flat out left-hander. Cars carry so much speed. And another one. Then we've got turn 8. Where they have to stay to the right-hand side where we've immediately got a little tight left for 9. Short straight. Then down to another tight left, which is super important because you need to get through that neat and tidy and then launch into the slightly banked curve which takes you onto the back straight. If you can keep the throttle pinned, you'll gain a benefit all the way down this 1.2 kilometre straight. They'll stay on the left-hand side, no point in wasting any metres because you want to be on the left at the end because it's a right-hander. You want to minimise the angle of that hairpin. Again, pick up the throttle. There we go. and to get through the gears, slightly blind on the way into the final corner, over a little crest, tightens through the exit, neat and tidy. Is this enough for Carlos Sainz?
Could be. It's enough to take him ninth for the time being, but they're all queuing up behind him, including Isaac Hadja, who goes fifth fastest, and that will certainly be enough for him. Kimi Antonelli went third fastest while we were watching Carlos Sainz. We're on board now with Lance Stroll as he crosses the line, goes ninth fastest, and Sainz now down to 11th, and it's looking a little bit tricky for him. Sonoda goes ninth fastest. Liam Lawson has had a lap deleted the track limits. That might not cost him, because it could have been an outlap. Gabriel Bortoletti goes 14th, gets out of the bottom five, but Lawson has taken the checkered flag, and he is out in SQ1. And that's a second qualifying in a row for Liam Lawson that has not gone the way he would have wanted. Charles Leclerc goes second fastest. We're on board now with Ollie Behrman, who within a tenth of a second is there in touch at the moment with his teammate Esteban Ocon. Max Verstappen goes fourth fastest as he crosses the line. Behrman gets out at SQ1 and goes ninth fastest. Super lap from Ollie Behrman. Carlos Sainz now 13th as Lewis Hamilton goes quickest by nearly 2 tenths from Lando Norris. Now, Nico Hülkenberg, who had a really impressive qualifying in Australia and is very much a man for a performance lap in Formula One, will be next to cross the line. George Russell goes across it now, 6th fastest for him. Hülkenberg gets no joy whatsoever, stays in the bottom 5, as does Esteban Ocon, and that's massive disappointment for him. But for Ollie Behrman, that is exactly what he would have wanted after the disappointments of Australia. For Liam Lawson, that is plumb last, and that is bad news.
Out.
Mate, I'm really sorry, but honestly, I could not get the tyres down.
Down in pressure heating. So, yeah, Behrman, what an effort there to get the Haas, which is not that fast at the moment, up into the top 10. Hamilton ahead of Norris and Leclerc.
Let's just have a little look here. Liam Lawson at track limits. That's where I think he went off the track, and he aborted his lap. I don't even think he crossed the line to take that checkered flag, and you can see off board he's clearly gone all 4 wheels over the white line. Jack Doohan also had a lap time deleted. We're not actually getting what the time was that got deleted, just when it actually happened. That was Esteban Ocon making his way to the line, sliding his way towards the finish. Did the Alpines go out too early? Because Doohan and Gasly have both exited in SQ1, and they went out quite early on in proceedings. Did you need to be last car over the line to start your flying lap? That sadly is Liam Lawson, who was the last car of the 20 times. Hülkenberg, Ocon, Gasly and Doohan join him as they make an exit. I'm really sorry, but honestly, I could not get the tyres down.
Let's take a look at Liam Lawson's lap here on board here. So this was his first lap. He had another go later on, but went off the track. So let's take a look. He's saying he couldn't get the tyres down, and you just watch his hand as he comes up towards turn 2, just really struggling for grip. Has to have 4 different bites of the cherry, but still misses the apex there. Off turn 2, dropping downhill for turn 3, and then starting the traction. Look, the rear of the car squirming around. So already he's leading lap time. Can't find any grip there. Let's get down to turn 6. Goes in okay, but tentative with the wheel. It's not a driver, I would say, who's full of confidence and able to just commit to the apex. Middle sector lap in the high speed. Listening. Fairly healthy lift there for 7. Brings the car in again. Some sort of little corrections there for 8. And he just again missed the apex. To me, the body language I'm seeing from Lawson in contrast to Verstappen, it's just he doesn't have the confidence to attack the corner entries on the steering wheel. You can just see he's tentative, he's nervous, he's not comfortable or confident driving that car. Again, some small corrections there as he opens up the wheel onto the long back straight. I'll scoot along just to save a bit of time and see as we get down to the hairpin. Let's have a look. And there again at the hairpin, not quite clean there, messy around, definitely outside curve. So yeah, just on the whole, that is a clear sign of a driver who's not at one with that car. Properly, I think SQ2 is beginning, so I'll come back to you.
Perfect timing, Kareem. Green lights, and the cars making their way onto the track, all 15 of them, minus Liam Lawson, as you were discussing. Mikael Hulkenberg is going to have to qualify for the second qualifying session in a row by his rookie teammate Gabriel Bortoleto, Esteban Ocon, and then the 2 Alpines of Pierre Gasly and Jack Doohan. And the information from Alpine is that both of their drivers were blocked on their run. We've not seen anything come up on the stewards page as of yet, but we'll keep you posted.
No, I guess some consolation with Jack Doohan is at least he out-qualified Pierre Gasly, but generally Livery there in 16th and 17th for the sprint. Williams were just sneaking through, but they're through, and that's all that matters. And now they're out on track, and only 7 of them out on track at the moment.
So maybe they're just waiting a little bit, and they're keeping their tyres nice and fresh in the bracket for a little while longer. Lewis Hamilton popped up right at the end into the fastest time. We talk about, confidence boosting run for Ollie Byrne, and that's probably a confidence boosting run for Lewis Hamilton as well, even though he's vastly more experienced than the fellow Englishman.
Yeah, it's starting to look a bit 70s, 80s and 90s, isn't it? McLaren versus Ferrari for these qualifying sessions, because we'll see what Verstappen can do. Mercedes haven't shown up yet, and what we think they can do, but there's no doubt about it. The Ferrari looked good right from the get-go. Lewis knows his place like the back of his hand, always been astonishing there. And it just looked, I don't think I saw a lap last weekend that looked like Lewis Hamilton driving it when he was at the wheel. It just didn't come together for them, did it, at all in Melbourne, but he's looked altogether different now.
Stewards have decided no further investigation, Russell and Tsunoda, and we thought that George Russell might have been in Tsunoda's way. Both went through to the next part of qualifying, which could be the reason for that.
Relief here for George, because he might have just had a full-close grid drop there. That was really touch and go.
As was that, sliding around. Gabriel Bortoleto through turn 2. That's a horrible corner, I'm sure, Martin, for a Formula 1 driver. You need patience.
Yeah, it looks like the steering wheel is connected to his rear axle, not his front axle, through those corners. And he's abandoning that particular one.
Which you can't blame him. Antonelli and Russell going for a second preparation lap, as they did in the first part of qualifying. As Alan missed at the back of the Sauber garage. This is the last season of Sauber before they become Audi for next year.
Including Alan working for them, of course. He's an Audi man, isn't he, from his Le Mans? Very, very successful Le Mans days with Audi.
Well, it looks like on board. Looks stylish, but it's not the quickest work.
So the tire pressures are very high here to cope with the super high speed straight, and like the last corner onto the straight. 26.5 front, 23 rear. before they take them out on the track, so they'll be 50 psi higher than that. That's very high for a Formula One tyre. So what they tried to do is get rid of some of that once they're obliged to have that as they come out of the blankets and trundle down the pit lane. They've got to try and let those pressures down, which gives them a lot more mechanical grip.
Lando Norris on a flying lap, making his way towards the end of his lap. Ahead of him, Max Verstappen with a 1:31.5, going 4 tenths faster than he managed in the first part of qualifying. And Norris crosses the line with a 1:31.174. We are within a tenth of a second now of the fastest ever lap here in Shanghai. The track has not changed in all these years, so we're seeing now, Martin, just how fast these cars are these days.
The drivers in these cars are super fast. Of course, we do have a lovely smooth surface as well for them to work on.
Sure. Not very grippy for Charles Leclerc, though.
Throwing away on the steering there, wasn't he? It seems as if you get the tyres in the sweet spot, off you go. If you can't, you're all at sea. And maybe seasick from that one.
Yeah, he's sawing away so much, it reminded me of a few DIY jobs that we're going to get back home next week. Back to the action. George Russell.
He just chucked the car into a corner, doesn't he? George loves a good positive turn-in.
He certainly does. And you can stuff a car into a corner here. Straight's coming up though, about 1.2 kilometres of flat out. DRS assisted in 75 metres longer, the DRS zone this year.
However fast you go, however much power you've got, it's not enough. You want more. They're topping out, what are they topping out down there? 340k, something like that. What's the top speed on there?
337, George Russell.
215 miles an hour, but it feels really slow when you want to go faster. So Russell then popped in a 32.1, Antonelli's done a 32.099, suggesting roughly the Mercedes pace in this phase. So, Oscar Piastri, what is your response to Lando Norris's 1:31.1? This is only to get you through to the top 10 shootout, of course. I think Norris can probably relax on that one. That's what Piastri's got in response. He is a touchdown in the middle sector. McLaren keeps his tyres very well, and he goes second.
So Oscar Piastri second fastest behind his teammate Lando Norris. We're now on board with Charles Leclerc, who's a little bit outside the time that the McLarens have been setting. Let's go to Bernie Collins at Sky Race Control. Bernie, you're monitoring the radio. What's the chatter between the teams and drivers?
Yeah, lots of discussion talk. We're just picking up on what Martin said there about these tyre pressures.
It just not working, guys. Right back, there was no grip.
Just to pick up on Jordan's point, how can they get the pressures down? It doesn't need to be a double cool, and there's just time left for that in this session. There is, I think, just time for now, people crossing the line to get that double cool lap in, try and get those pressures nicely down, and then start the final fire lap.
Thanks ever so much, Bernie. Right, here's the situation with 3 minutes to go. The bottom 5, Alex Albon, Carlos Sainz, who we're looking at now, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Ollie Behrman and Isaac Hadjar. Carlos Sainz has just crossed the line to go 9th fastest, has gone 9th, and that's pushed Fernando Alonso, who hasn't set a time yet, into that bottom 5. The two McLarens fastest, Norris and Piastri. Then comes Verstappen 3rd, Antonelli 4th, Leclerc 5th, Hamilton 6th, Russell 7th, Bortoletto 8th, Sainz 9th and Albon 10th.
It's odd really when you think about it. Pirelli mandate these tyre pressures for the security of their tyre under such enormous loads of these ground effect cars and speeds they carry. And if the teams go straight out and just try to undercut that as far as they can to get some grip. So it's in a way, it's somewhat conflicting.
Lots of drivers on the radio asking about the wind direction. I think it's blowing slightly across on the main straight from right to left. As if you heard Isaac Hadjar going down the straight now, it's pushing into you at that angle, if that makes sense, as he makes his way into turn 1. We've got the timing bar back. That's nice, but that's not nice for Isaac Hadjar.
Oh, big stopper in the middle, a lot of oversteer, back on sliding, and the car just wouldn't cope with what he needed it to do there. So he's got just about enough time to have another go.
He's going to have to push, but not as hard as it was on a flying lap. Here's Yuki Tsunoda, his teammate, over the curb, but that's not too bad. And now he can start to ease onto the throttle, and now he can push it flat to the floor as he makes his way up towards the next hairpin at turn 6. He's a tenth and a half outside of time that he needs to carry on and make more of an impression into SP3 with just over a minute to go.
Good traction there from Tsunoda. So his tyres look alright in the first sector, and let's see what he can do sector time-wise. He's a personal best so far. It's a reasonably long middle sector, just under half a minute.
Top three are all back in their garages. Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, they think they are all safe. The ones who aren't safe are Stroll, Tsunoda, Behrman, Hadjar and Alonso, who are all on laps currently. But as we saw with Isaac Hadjar, he's on a lap to try and get to the line and start a flying lap, because he made that mistake down at turn 1. And I tell you what,
He's given him a lovely slipstream.
that is real helpful for a teammate there. Yuki Tsunoda will be massively pleased with that. 339 kilometres an hour, Yuki Tsunoda in the speed trap, aided and abetted by Isaac Hadjar. But where's he going to put Yuki Tsunoda though? Is he going to make his way out of the bottom 5? Oh, yeah, you bet you he is. Fourth fastest, 6/10 off, but that should be good enough for Yuki Tsunoda as Hamilton goes quickest in the middle sector. Stroll now goes fourth fastest with a super lap in the Aston Martin. His teammate Fernando Alonso is setting personal best as Hamilton goes third fastest. That's good enough for him. Alonso after Leclerc. Leclerc first goes only fifth fastest, and Lewis Hamilton starting to really get the bit between his teeth over his teammate here. Isaac Hadjar's boxed as Alonso goes eighth fastest, so Hadjar is definitely out. Ollie Behrman goes into the top 10. Ninth fastest, puts Kimi Antonelli in the 10th, and George Russell outside the top 10 now as Carlos Sainz stays in the bottom 5. Juan Williams to go. Alex Albon, he'll be next to cross the line after Gabriel Bortoleto, who stays in the bottom 5. Albon crosses the line, goes fifth fastest. Wow, what a lap from Alex Albon. That then pushes both Mercedes into that bottom 5.
And they're both on track though, and they're both doing personal best first sector, personal best second sector. Mercedes, as long as they don't go wide in the last corner, are about to recover this.
And that looked pretty neat there from Kimi Antonelli as he crosses the line to go fourth fastest, and that pushes Ollie Behrman out of the top 10. Now can Fernando Alonso stay in the top 10, or will it be George Russell? Russell crosses the line and goes second fastest. Decent lap from George Russell. Alonso will have to settle for 11th on the grid, and he missed out on the final part of qualifying for the sprint by 0.02 of a second.
Tsunoda through, and good work by Hadjar there to help his teammate, made the difference. He's not for himself, but I think the team will still be pretty pleased with him for that massive slipstream that gave Tsunoda, which made the difference.
So, Isaac Hadjar, this is the mistake that he made. His final lap over really before it started.
I mean, he was not being wild there at all. It just wouldn't stick. There was no grip because he was completely under control on the right part of the track, minding his own business, and David just stepped out of him.
So Isaac Hadjar makes his way into the media area to do some interviews. Gabriel Bortoleto is also out.
It's all over the place. Yeah, the seat is coming out of its attachment on a bump.
For Carlos Sainz. Wind problems for the drivers. Hadjar, Bortoleto, Sainz and Behrman all out, as is Fernando Alonso, who missed the first SQ3 appearance for 6 races by 0.02 of a second. Out in front, Lando Norris again for McLaren with a 1:31.1 from George Russell and Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Antonelli. Welcome back to Shanghai sprint qualifying. The two Ferraris sent out at the same time, and then this instruction came Charles Leclerc's way.
And can we swap the cars, please? Swap the cars now? Yes, please. Yeah, I'll do it, but we've never done that. And I'm a bit of it as well, so.
And in the end, 4/10 of a second difference, Martin, between the two Ferrari drivers. It's a bit late swapping the cars at that stage when they're out on the track.
Yeah, I mean, you have to assume that means that Lewis has got some kind of priority this weekend, which is what used to happen in Mercedes.
That's right, they took a turn.
The flip-flop, but it seems as if Charlie Leclerc might have missed that email.
Alright, so they're both through. Hamilton with a 1:31.3 and Charles Leclerc with a 1:31.5. That was so late after this session. Elsewhere, Lance Stroll out qualifying Fernando Alonso, which he did in half of the sixth sprint last year. Yuki Tsunoda making it through into SQ3. Alex Albon doing the same thing. George Russell saying that it's a bit all over the place. That wind is gusting around. It's fairly strong, Martin.
Yeah, we're talking about 2.3 metres per second, and it's gusting as well. But we're ready to go again. It's relentless, isn't it, with sprint qualifying?
It certainly is. Before the light goes green, let's quickly go to the Haas pit wall. Io Komatsu, Ollie Behrman put a super lap in. Sadly, not quite enough for a top 10.
Yeah, but I think he's done a really good job here today.
How's the conditions out there? Is it really tough for the drivers with this wind?
Yeah, I think it's quite gusty out there, of course, part of the activity, so it is tricky, yes, to have a putting that, but he did a really good job.
And the issue with the tyres, is getting the tyres into the right pressures. Were you struggling with that? Because a lot of drivers seem to be.
I don't think so, but, you know, it's not something that is completely forefront of our mind. I don't think we have issues with tyres with the cars to ride.
Excellent. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Glad we could squeeze in a little chat. We'll talk more tomorrow for the sprint race itself. Right. Who's going to get sprint pole here then? Lando Norris was the driver who got sprint pole in Shanghai last year. Lando Norris is the driver who got sprint pole in Qatar, the last sprint event we had in 2024. Max Verstappen is the driver that's got 9 sprint poles in 18 sprints that he's taken part in, and he had 4 of them last year.
And of course, New Zealand now, they're out on the soft compound tyre, more mechanical grip. Probably will give up a little bit earlier in the lap if you take too much out of him as you're going along. So his car is working best on the softer, racier tyres.
And a few just waiting in the garage to go out as a last gasp drive and performance lap. Split in strategy here, Bernie Collins. Some wanting to get onto the track straight away, and some thinking, well, we'll take our time a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's a soft tyre. This is going to be a bit of a rest for everyone. They didn't get the ideal run on P1 this morning. Some at the end of the last session, we went to right at the end, 6 drivers, and then after only a single lap to get the job done. Always high pressure in these situations, Proctor. Just go back to Leclerc and Hamilton radio. I think Hamilton was in a slightly better position in tyres and wanted to push on during that slow lap. Leclerc trying to open a bit of a gap, trying to cool everything down a bit more, and that I think is why they switched.
So Lewis would have been compromised had he stayed behind.
Seems that way, but it still seems to surprise Charles quite a lot, didn't it? I think when he said he wasn't in a good place, using a few other words, but I think he meant traffic hours. He's obviously got a time temperature as well, so are they going to go for it? It seems like it.
Certainly does. Oscar Piastri making his way towards turn 6 as Lando Norris exits turn 4, and on the brakes with Piastri, 24.2. There's a very competitive first sector.
What you've got to do is be off the brakes before you turn the steering wheel to help the front axle turn, have the car rotate, as we like to call it. But the downshifts, it was understeering away from the apex there a little bit. But the tricky little left-handers now, short squirt down the back straight, this little straight here, and you brake at that 50-metre board, and then turn in super late. You're going to open up this final corner. Try not to catch that curve actually. Back end of the car just snaking around under hard acceleration for Oscar Piastri, and he's done a very good middle sector, same as Norris on the first sector. He's a 10th up in the middle sector, but did he punish those rear tyres a little bit too much there?
It's a bit like Australia in qualifying for the Grand Prix in Melbourne. The two McLaren drivers nip and tuck all the way through this lap here, and it's going right down to the line as Piastri gets a very nice exit out of that final corner, opens up the DRS, crosses the line with a 1:30.9. Now, is that enough to bag provisional pole here? Norris crosses the line. It is, you know. Oscar Piastri, who has been on pole for a sprint on 2 occasions, has beaten his teammate Lando Norris in that particular lap, and in the last sector was 6/10 of a second up on Norris. George Russell goes into second place and splits the two McLarens, and he will be mighty happy with that one. Antonelli crosses the line. He's the slowest of the 4 lap times that we've had so far.
Now we wait to see what Ferrari can do. Lando Norris really is under pressure there, isn't he? He's at risk of losing more places on the grid. He's a full 4/10, nearly 5/10 slower than his teammate. There's Antonelli wrestling his Mercedes.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a swapper on to Kimi Antonelli, and that's cost him a heap of time. That last sector, you asked the question, Martin, has he been too hard on his tyres? The answer, not.
Really not. He was flying in the last sector.
And what happened to Lando Norris as he's moving his way onto the back straight? Not just that mistake that loses you time, but you lose time all the way down the straight.
That cost him. He had much more of a slide than Piastri. We didn't see that, did we, earlier on? But that cost Norris very dearly indeed.
So I'm assuming that the two McLarens and the two Mercedes will go again and hope that the tyre wear is low enough so that the fuel effect actually takes more effect so that they can put in a faster time.
Yeah, they might not be over yet. There's still time for another lap. They will have fueled accordingly. So, here's Hamilton then to prepare his lap. He knows how to drive around this place.
He certainly does. He sets off for his one and only flying lap in this final part of sprint qualifying. As he does that, Yuki Tsunoda comes down to the garage to join the action on the track.
Well, Ferrari looked nicely hooked up there, tyre grip-wise. And again, he can do a bit of a wall of death there. Hard acceleration. His tyres are in the right window at the early part of this lap. It looks really good through there. He's gone fastest of anybody through that first sector.
Track ramping up all the time as well. That will aid these second runs, or first runs in the case of Lewis Hamilton, and less than a tenth of a second between himself and his teammate Charles Leclerc, who's the man that's taken the only sprint pole for Ferrari. He's in Baku in 2023. Hamilton makes his way now out of turn 11, and that's short straights.
But Norris is even faster in the first sector than Hamilton now. He is going to get another go at it, Lando Norris.
And crucially, he's at least a tenth of a bit up on his teammate Oscar Piastri through the first sector as well. Hamilton with a 27.2 in the middle sector is keeping the McLarens very keen though.
He is. He's heading for a front row at the moment with this lap, assuming it's a nice clean finish. Hamilton really looking at one with this Ferrari.
Neither of the two McLarens getting anywhere near to Lewis Hamilton's middle sector, so he is keeping them very honest indeed. He was on the front row last year, if you remember, for the sprint in Shanghai. Hamilton crosses the line now and goes fastest. He's 0.08 of a second clear of Oscar Piastri. Hamilton with 6 Grand Prix poles here has now got a provisional sprint pole as well, as Charles Leclerc, 2 tenths down, comes home for third. And we turn now to Oscar Piastri, who crosses the line now and doesn't improve his position, even though it's a fabulous final sector, and Lando Norris hits for McLaren. So might well have made a mistake or lost pace down that back straight that we didn't see, but Lando Norris only 5th fastest so far, with Max Verstappen and plenty more to come.
Yeah, Max Verstappen's 24.2 first sector is decent, is right in the ballpark, and a 27.3 middle sector. Max is about to get somewhere on the front row or second row.
So Alex Albon is 8th fastest, bang on a personal best in the first sector. Yuki Tsunoda going well in the first sector. Lance Stroll only 7th fastest for him. And the front row currently, two drivers that could do with a bit of a pick-me-up after Melbourne. Hamilton and Piastri had disappointing Australian Grand Prix, but they have set their stall out and hit the ground running here in Shanghai this weekend. Max Verstappen, the man who's taken pole in half of the 18 sprints that we've had in Formula One, comes to the line now and goes second fastest by 18 one-thousandths of a second. He's ahead of Piastri. He is behind Hamilton, and they're celebrating at Ferrari for what is Lewis Hamilton's first ever pole position at his new team on the track that he's dominated qualifying and victories over the years. Here comes Alex Albon, 8th fastest for him, goes ahead of Lance Stroll, and it'll be Yuki Tsunoda still to complete his lap to try and put his Racing Bulls somewhere around 7th place with Kimi Antonelli. If he's kept his tyres in a decent condition, he could yet out-qualify that particular Mercedes. He can't quite make it. 8th fastest for him. It's Hamilton on pole, and we've said that again and again and again here in Shanghai.
Where are we? Just happy on the front row.
Really?
Yeah. Good job, San Diego.
Mega job.
Yeah, Norris down in 6th place, locked his front brakes up going into the turn 14 hairpin at the end of the back straight, which is why he barreled straight into the pit lane. And yeah, I was saying, Hamilton versus Verstappen front row has got a ring to it, hasn't it?
It certainly has. You go back to Silverstone 2021 for the one and only time that Lewis Hamilton has started from pole at a sprint race. And Ferrari are popular in this part of town, and Lewis Hamilton is popular in this part of town, and they are making some noise for him today. Never since that first ever sprint race has he been on pole. He's done it today. Oscar Piastri comes over to shake hands, and the lap record has been broken, ladies and gentlemen. A 1:30.849, the fastest lap we've ever seen here in Shanghai.
It looked fast out there, didn't it? So close. The top 4 covered by 1.5 tenths of a second in a 91-second lap. And that'll calm everything at Ferrari, won't it? Somewhat, because they had quite a stressful race last weekend, didn't you? Event, you'd have to say.
Yeah. Wow. What a difference a week makes, eh? For Lando Norris, he'll start where he ended lap 1 in the Shanghai Sprint last year. You remember, he lost all those places at the start. He's alongside George Russell on the grid. Charles Leclerc has Oscar Piastri for company, and as you say, it's Verstappen and Hamilton on the front row, where they've shared a front row 14 times in a Grand Prix format before. They're going to do it for a sprint, and Verstappen, of course, winning the sprint here last year, still proving that you can't write him off at all in that particular Red Bull. He qualifies second, his teammate last on the grid.
Yeah. Rub salt into poor Liam Lawson's wounds there, doesn't it? Down the back, but struggled, just a lack of experience really to get the tyres where they needed to be. But you could see straight away, couldn't you, in the first 4 turns, Hamilton got it right on point. The car was really stable, and he was hustling the throttle, and he got the tyres and pressures and temperatures absolutely in the window. So did Max, his experience coming through again. So championship leader Norris down in 6th is the sprint, less points available, but that's not where he needs to be.
Certainly not. And Hamilton, the oldest pole sitter in any format since Nigel Mansell in 1994 in Adelaide. Let's see if he's got his breath back. Alex Brundle has the mic in his hand, waiting to talk.
Lewis, congratulations on sprint pole. A brilliant marker in the sand in the early season for you at Ferrari. Take us through the lap. How does it feel to claim pole?
I mean, firstly, I want to say a big thank you to this amazing crowd we have here today. didn't expect that result, but so happy and so proud. I think obviously the last race was a disaster for us, and clearly we knew that there was more performance in the car, but we just weren't able to extract it. So to come here to a track that I love, Shanghai, beautiful place, and the weather's been amazing, and the car really came alive from lap one. So we made some great changes. The team did a fantastic job through the break to get the car ready, and yeah, I'm a bit in shock. I can't believe it's actually, we got a pole in a sprint. It's obviously it's not the main race, so we've got work to do for tomorrow, but the push is in good stead for the race.
It's been looking like McLaren's weekend in the running that we've had so far. There's 1800ths in it, and a tenth covers the top three. Where do you think on the lap made the difference for you?
I have no idea. I have to go back and have a look, but my first sector was really strong. I think that's where I made most of my improvement on that lap, and then but just little increments through the whole place. I think there's still time to find for sure, which I'll try and make sure that I apply to the next qualifying section we go out in. But it's amazing to see the number one as you stop and be in the red car. It's pretty incredible.
Do you think you're going to be able to hang on to it? You've had so little time to work out the race pace here. What are you expecting? What are you expecting for the sprint race?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've not really done. I didn't get to do a race run in Bahrain. Obviously, we did the race last weekend in the wet, but tomorrow will be kind of my first real long-ish run or race run, and Sunday will be my first proper race run in the dry with this car. So I'll be learning. I'm hoping that we can hold on to it, but I think the McLaren's is very fast, as is Max. So we're in a good position. We'll stay positive and we'll keep our heads high and keep pushing forward.
Awesome lap. Well done, Lewis. Sprint pole.
Thank you. Cheers.